So I have two regrets from yesterday. First is resetting the combine back to the shop before I had checked that I'd emptied it, which is really annoying. And secondly is choosing this hat, which I feel like I've got to wear again today. You know, like it's my thing. I've got a thing. It's this hat. And it's really tight and it squeezes my head and it's causing me a headache. But anyway, you know, we'll crack on. I'll have a quick drink and we'll go. Yesterday I harvested my two fields, which were 43 and 40. So they're now done, and I don't want them. So I'm going to sell them. Ka-ching. And, if you don't mind me saying so, ka-ching, gone. And that makes me a little bit richer. I got £700,000 in the bankety bank. I bought that one already. No, I didn't. I bought that one and that one already. Now I want to buy this one. Good. I don't think I've kind of got any material. I don't think I've got any equipment. What we need to do, just quickly check, is see what we've got for sale and see when the perfect time to buy any is. We're in August, so what we're looking for is anything that peaks in August. You can see that wheat is at its lowest price in August, its highest price in January. Not surprising given that you just harvested a bunch of wheat in August. Barley, much the same. Oat, much the same. Canola, not that different. Ooh. Sorghum. Ooh, God, that's incredibly low. So those are the things we've got. Then obviously grapes we don't have. Olives we don't have. Sunflowers we have. It looks like the peak price is in March, so that's about as far away as you could possibly have it. Soybeans have just had their zenith and are now at their lowest, so that's pretty irritating. Corn is going to be at its highest in January, which is not a huge time away, and I don't know if we have anything further down secretly stashed away. Oh, we've got some lentils. January, we've got some chickpeas. We would have had a lot more chickpeas if I wasn't a complete and utter gimboid. That's up in January. And then just like millions of weird things. And the problem with going all the way down to the bottom of all the millions of weird things is that actually I want to be at the top of all these millions of weird things. And there's no quick way to get to the top other than sort of pushing on the doodah and whizzing up the what's-it. So anyway, due diligence has been taken care of. I'm not going to sell anything till January, that's fine. What I now need to think about is the fact that I have no vehicle, but I do own 3 fields. I've just bought a new field, and so I ought to buy soil information for it. That's the one that I haven't bought soil information for. So there are my 3. It looks like they probably all need some lime to reduce acidity, and obviously they all need nitrogen, except possibly the ploughed field, because the ploughed field could have something like soybeans in, which doesn't require nitrogen because they produce their own nitrogen because they have little nodules on their roots. I'm very happy to talk about such things in due course. So field 31 could have soybeans, and then it wouldn't require putting any nitrogen in at all. But let's go and have a little look at these fields. Here is 31, which is all barren. It has been, its weeds are growing, its pH is bad. This one over here, the picture quality is not great, is it? This one, the pH is good, but the nitrogen is bad, so we definitely need to put some nitrogen on here. and we will do that now, any second now. And then, it's a long old walk, isn't it? This field here, just got corn growing. One of the things we need to think about is whether we're going to grow this corn for silage. I'm sitting in a bit of France at the moment where all of the maize, by when I say corn, I mean maize, is just in they're just in the process of turning it into silage. So that's for feeding cattle. So they chop it up into the whole thing, the stem, the green stems, the cobs, the whole thing. Chop, 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 chop. And then they ferment it in a great big container. And it turns into stuff called silage, which is really good for feeding cows. And because it's got the corn cobs in there, it's got lots of starch, and it's good. It's got fibre and it's got soluble carbohydrate or digestible carbohydrate. But you can also let it grow fully and then just harvest it for the seeds. I think we're going to do that because there's some money in them there as seeds, and at the moment we have a piggery but no pigs, so we have nothing to feed the silage to. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go and nip off to the shop, and we are going to buy ourselves. No, we're not going to buy ourselves. We're going to rent a big old sprayer. I've got nearly £700,000 in the bank, but I'm too tight to buy anything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a self-propelled sprayer just on hire for the time being. Am I being spectacularly stupid? Crop protection, there we go. And we want one that does fertiliser and weed killer. The weed killer is the red bottle with the black cross on it. The fertiliser is the little green leafy thing. That's a relatively cheap chap, but it does both, and it does 37 miles per hour, 36 metres. That is probably what we're going to get because it's quick across the ground. Oh, that's a nice one. That does both. I didn't even know. That must be a mod I've downloaded. That does 37 miles an hour. It does up to 32 metres width. What's this one's width? Up to 36, but I mean, you know, that might be quite cheap. 145. Ooh, let's have a little look at this. And it's a case. I kind of like case. I don't have a problem with it. Let's go. Oh no, let's just go for standard width, which is 27, which is more than enough. Let's go for standard width because we don't have crop protection. I mean crop destruction turned on. Reservatory, that presumably means more. I tell you what, I do quite like to have the thing that measures the quality of the crop. So this thing called Isaria Pro Compact. That makes it a lot more expensive, but what that does is that it measures the amount of chemical that you're putting onto the ground. If I want to release this, that's going to be £13,000. If I were to buy it, it's £273,000. So I think I'm going to lease it for the time being. I'm going to do lots of leasing. And the other fun thing about leasing is you can lease really nice kit and have fun whizzing around in really nice kit before you can properly afford it. So I'm going to take this beastie. There we are. I am going to whiz it around to the farm. Now at the moment I don't have any means of filling it, but I'm about to remedy that by getting a sort of universal filling point and it's fitting it at the farm. Again, this is not realistic. You can't just have one single thing that provides you with everything. But essentially it represents you ordering and buying and having delivered various chemicals, which I can say from a first-hand experience is kind of the boring bit of being a farmer. It's having to anticipate when you're going to need stuff, arranging to have it delivered, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm just about to go on a frenzy of selling things which will clear up the layout of my farm a considerable amount. So I apologise to the purists at this point, but I'm about to commit some kind of a weird crime, because I'm going to just get rid of pretty much everything. Select it and sell it. There we go. And this thing behind me, I'm going to select it and I'm going to sell it. Not even going to look to see what the price is. This ghastly device here. Oh, let's get a little bit closer. Don't like this. Let's sell it. That was the thing that makes fertilizer. This is a store for methane gas. I have apart from the obvious interest in methane, because it's funny, I have no interest in methane. This is a very specific storage for almonds. You know, yeah, we might grow some almonds at some point, but heck. This is, there we go, let's, olives, again, we might grow olives. It's just topping up the old, and that thing. Now the one area that I have not yet dealt with is this, which I don't like. It's ugly, and I can get a sort of underground thing. But first of all, it's got stuff in it, so I don't want to throw it away until I've sold it all. And secondly, I think that my underground storage silo-y thing is quite expensive, because I want the best one available. It's a mod, and it's all the way down here. Let's keep going. Oh, there's lots of stuff I don't know anything about. Farm silo. Silos are used to store crops. It doesn't give you a huge amount of additional information to that, does it? But there is something. Here we go. Underfloor storage for bulk materials or liquids. Mod, 50,000. And that can store 100,000. Medium universal underfloor can store 1 million litres of anything. Underfloor storage for bulk materials can score 10 million. Well, I don't need any of that, do I? I mean, 1 million of something. I could afford that. But if I were to do that, I would need to take everything out of these units and put them somewhere. I could sell them, even though it's not a very good time to sell them. I could just sell them on principle. And the place I could sell them is that I could buy a sell point. You can buy these universal sell points where you can sell anything. Anyway, I don't think any of that matters just at the moment. I think what matters is that I've got a vehicle. Oh, yeah, okay. So the other unforgivable thing that I'm going to do, if I could just, no. What are you doing? What are you doing? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a universal sell point about here, which means that I can fill up the sprayer, I can fill up muck spreaders, I can fill up anything. And I get charged, but I don't get charged a huge amount of money. So we go back to construction, and we go to buildings, and we go to, I think it's a container. And then we go down. All products from the base game, £10,000. All products from the base game and the Platinum DLC can be purchased. I don't think I've got Platinum DLC. I think I've got Premium. I don't really know the difference, but this is the fella, and it's only £2,500. So it's very tempting to just put them all over it's very tempting to just put them all over the farm, on the edges of fields, because you're out in a field and you run out of fertiliser or something, and you think, oh gosh, well, I could really do with just a little top up. So there we go. So there's one of those. And what that means, rather charmingly and delightfully, and exactly what the guy who invented it meant, is that I can swing underneath that with this lovely device. I hope I can swing under this with this lovely device. And I can choose start filling, and then I can choose, do I want herbicide, I want liquid fertilizer, I want liquid fertilizer, and it'll fill me up, and that's cost just under £4,000. And then I can go and put fertilizer on a field that needs some fertilizer, which is pretty exciting, I think. That's pretty exciting. And whilst that's going on, because I shall get a worker to do it, I'm such a, what's the word? Oligarch? No. What's the word that means that I'm going to get a worker to do it? I'm such a landlord. I'm such a... Well, anyway, I'm sure you've all got words for me. Whatever I am, such a of. I'm going to get a worker to do this. I can do a little bit of driving on it without causing any trouble. And I'm going to back up. So there we go. And we can see now, top left-hand corner, how much has to be applied. That's because I've got the Asaria Pro thing figured out. So you've got your checkered flag, which means this is the ideal. So hang on, it's not, I would say, doing what I was expecting it to do, which probably suggests that I haven't turned on the Asaria Pro. So I'm just going to back up and have another little go. I may be quite wrong about this. But what we want to do is to set the ideal amount, not just spray on a load of stuff. You want to be able to look at the soil and go, this is how much I need to apply. So, it says deactivate automatic application rate. We've got that. No, we've got that. Turn on spread, toggle map, change work width. If I press the other button, honk, press both buttons, turn on crop sensor. Okay, which means it knows what kind of crop it's dealing with. Okay. Now it's a little bit more choosy about what it's doing. Increasing nitrogen level to optimum value for corn on loamy soil. So as the soil changes, or if the crop were to change, it would change its inset. And we're just slightly missing a bit off the edge. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a headland, and then I'm going to clear off and prepare the other field and spend some of my money. Because there are some things that I know I definitely want, one of which is a great big plough, and it'll be a chisel plough. Yeah, so, no, don't muck me out. I know that bit's already been done. But this bit, this bit here, has not been done. There we go. You can see, bottom left-hand corner, that I skipped a bit as I came down the row. It's putting a bit more on here because the soil is different. And so it senses that, it's got GPS, it knows where it is in the field, puts it on a bit more heavily there. Because it's worth it, because the soil is good enough that the crop will benefit from it. There's no point putting on loads and loads of nitrogen under conditions where the plant can't take advantage of that. because other things become the rate limiting step. That's a little bit of science. If you want a little bit of science, the rate limiting or rate determining step. It's like the weakest link in a chain. It's the same kind of concept. There's no point putting 20 incredibly strong links into a chain if one of the links is weak, because then the whole chain is weak. It's one of the climate arguments is people say, oh, carbon dioxide is good for the atmosphere, Well, plants can't necessarily utilise the extra carbon dioxide, which is supposedly good for them, if the limiting factor is the lack of nitrogen in the soil, or the lack of magnesium in the soil, or the lack of anything else. Then the extra carbon dioxide doesn't make a difference. Just in the same way that if you put masses of nitrogen on, but there isn't enough water, there isn't enough carbon dioxide, there isn't enough magnesium, the plants aren't able to use it. So it's not just about throwing tons and tons of chemicals at things. There has to be some science involved. Of course there does. I've been going 20 minutes already, it's amazing. Maybe not amazing to you, just amazing to me. Now then, I need to line myself up such a way that I can then abandon this. You can just see that slight change in the colour of the soil, which tells you that one part of it has been treated. What's the inside of this like? I don't know. It's a bit utilitarian, isn't it? I don't like it. Right, that is now cracking on. I am now, my now concern is field 31, which is, if we just go to here, field 31 is the field that's got nothing going on. So we need to think about what we might do with this. Weeds are growing, so if I plough it, that means I don't have to deal with weeds again. But I have got a sprayer, so I could spray it, and that will deal with the weeds. The pH value is bad, which means that I need to put some lime on it. So I'm going to put some lime on it, and then I'm going to plough the lime in. And I think that's pretty cool. So let's have a little look at lime spreaders. I don't need the biggest lime spreader in the world. We all want the biggest lime spreader in the world, but I don't think I need one. That spreader only spreads fertiliser. That one spreads fertiliser and lime. That one is fertiliser only. That one is fertiliser and lime. That one is fertiliser and lime. That does 42 metre spread. That does 12 to 18 metres spread. That does 12 to 18 metres spread, but it's not very big. But I think, given that I'm only going to rent it, or should I buy that one? Because I will use it a lot. I'll buy that one. And I'll buy the extension, and I will buy I won't have wide tyres, but I will have the 6 metre spreading unit. So that it spreads at 18 metres. So that's £88,000, but I've got £770,000. It's a pretty standard piece of kit. You need one. Now then, I need a tractor to pull that. I can't remember reading what its sort of requirements were in terms of. Look at that! I own a trailer and I own a fertiliser spreader. It doesn't tell you what horsepower is needed to pull it. I don't think it's a massive job. So I think we can go for a sort of medium-sized tractor. And the question is, whether we buy a medium-sized tractor now. I mean, these are lovely bits of equipment. Maybe we'll buy a really nice Massey Ferguson. What's that? That Massey Ferguson for 97,000, 170 horsepower. Top speed 24. No, nothing less than 31 as a top speed. I could buy a Fendt. I love a Fendt. We could bump it up to 246 horsepower. Oh dear. 246 horsepower is £200,000. It's a lovely looking machine. Standard wheels. Ought to have a front loader attacher. Oh, I don't know what kind of front loader we've got, so I've got to go back and just check what kind of front loader we've got. It's a Hauer, and it's for vehicles up to 120 horsepower. So it might be too small for our proposed new tractor. So let's just rent this tractor. But we will have a Saria Pro on it, but we'll keep everything else standard, and we'll just lease it, which is just under £7,000. Bosh, let's not worry about it too much. Are we saying this entire field is done? Let's get out and have a little look. Nitrogen is perfect. All that time I spent worrying about the tractor, and this thing has done its work. It has to be said, the next field is considerably bigger. We did just do the little putty tutty field. Did we? Maybe we didn't. Maybe we did the big field. We did the big field. We've just got the little tutty field to go. Fair play to us. That is the farm down there. Down to the left is where we would keep some cows if we were keeping some cows. And I believe there is a sort of auto feeder thing that if we just stock it up with what it needs, which is hay, silage and straw, then a little robot will go out and feed the cows. When I played this map in the past, that feature didn't work, which I found most aggravating. Because as you will probably have gathered, I'm a very difficult person. Right, let's open up this. Let's do one width of this field, then we'll get up the length of I mean, this field is going to take no time to sort out. Oh look, it's saying no field found. That's interesting. Do I own this field? Owned by you. Nitrogen is bad. So, I mean, this ought to be a field that we can do. So I'm going to put the old thingies on and then hit, oh, no field found. Work unexpectedly, no field found. But if I do it manually, it's putting the fertilizer on. And it is, let's just check that it's making a change to the field state. So That is dark soil, dark soil, dark soil, dark soil, dark soil, dark soil. Gosh, I'm not sure that there's anything we can do on this field. I'm assuming that is fertiliser, isn't it? It really doesn't want to fertilise this field. So I don't know what that is. It may be that it wants solid fertiliser, not liquid fertiliser, although that's a bit odd. So I might just hunker down and go back to this fella and see if it's big enough to pull this, which is ours and is massive. Point about it is that it will do both fertiliser and lime. Well, I'm not sure this tractor is big enough. It is massive. Lovely, lovely interior layout. So we've got to whip down to the farm. And one of the reasons I chose this map is that it's not a very long drive from the farm shop to the farm. If you've got to drive down miles of roads, yeah, particularly when you're as crap at driving as I am. Oh dear. I'm so terrible at it, that's why I turn the traffic off. Then, it's a bit boring. Here's the farmstead. That's horses we don't own. Coming up to pigs that we do own. And I think I'm right in saying that we own this shed, which is quite nice. Let's have a little look and do the whole what do we own thing. Yeah, we own the shed, so that's all right. And we own the piggery here, which we will fill with pigs in due course, and then we will have to concentrate on feeding them. Initially, we can feed them from this not free food, but this every kind of thing you can want, including pig food store. I'm going to do a naughty for those of you who like this sort of stuff, which is that I'm going to go in this way round, which means that my lid sort of slides through. And it asks me, do I want lime or do I want solid fertiliser? I tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a tiny amount of solid fertiliser in and see if I can put that on the field that I couldn't fertilise. That's 15%, that's probably enough. Lovely thing is that you can, if I don't use this, I can tip it out and it will get popped into a little storage container. Let us see if I can spread fertiliser on this field. I'm going to choose turn on crop sensor. No values detected. I wonder whether I've made a boobage and I have not in fact bought information for this field. Reset values. Purchase. You see, I mean, I've already spent that much money for it. And you can see the bit that's worked. But it is not going to let me automatically do this. But if I put it on like this, it is making a difference. It's putting a lot of fertiliser on. It's not quite so easy to see where your fertiliser has been. I'll try sort of here. See what happens. Oh, that's massive overlap. Never mind. It's only money. That's quite tough, isn't it? That's a big old hump in the ground. Yeah, that's not so clever. Look how close I am to my target. I need to be much further out. I'm just going to leave it on. Again, I'm too close. I'm quite close to finishing the field. So I might just, you know. Yeah, even though the sound effect's happening, I'm not actually losing crop. When I go off the field, it switches off the dispensing of the crop. Is that going to finish this field? That would be amazing. I'm quite thrilled by all of that. Now then, I need to get rid of that little bit of fertiliser that I have in here. And I can do that by unloading. And it ought to. Oh, do you know what it's done? It's only gone and thrown it up there. It's only gone and thrown it up there because the throw range is so large. Anyway, not to worry. Got this hat. This hat is quite problematic. Is it the hat that causing the headache or the glasses? Oh, good question. Now that I'm empty, so I'm going to fill up with lime. Again, because I don't need to be full of lime. But if I'm full of lime, you know, it's full up for another occasion. And I shall wander towards this field, which has no lime. And I shall attempt to find a point at which I can cross the field. I'm going to try here and see if here completely fills the field. I suspect I've gone a little bit too far. Yep, so I've gone a lot too far. Line myself up here and hit go. And I've gone all the way out to the edges, which is lovely. And I am using a worker. So, oof, that hat. I do have a very large head, 7 5/8. I'm hoping this hat will stretch so that in due course it does not cause me excruciating pain to wear it. I think in principle, I hope this isn't too sweeping a statement, but I don't think the clothes you wear should, under normal circumstances, cause you excruciating pain. I think if you're a medieval knight, what's going on here? If you're a medieval knight and you have to wear a full set of armour, I think you can expect it probably to cause you a considerable amount of pain. But if you just pull a second 11 cap on for a few moments as a jolly old part of your costume so that you can stream Farming Simulator on Twitch for an hour once in a while, I don't think it should be causing you permanent physical pain. We're all done there, aren't we? Why am I hanging on to this? Don't know. Rental, I think, is by day, and then you get an additional charge for the number of hours that you use it. So I think if I just leave it there, sort of parked, that's absolutely fine. Now I'm going to approach again from this end and try and anticipate how much right-hand side I need. I'm going to assume that quite attractive sort of dark bit running down the middle is some sort of a sign. Oh, it pretty much reaches it. Yeah, pretty much reaches. There's a tiny bit down the side that's not getting this. But it only affects the yield a tiny amount, so to a certain extent it's all moot. If we're going to worry about what is moot and what is not moot in the world of Farming Simulator, oof, it's a big conversation. First little mini yawn there. Got to be careful because I don't want to do the falling asleep thing again. Beautiful. I am going, when I've done this, to get a plough, and I'm going to get what I'm going to call a chisel plough, but when we get it we'll realise it's not called a chisel plough. And it does 9 metres, and it requires huge horsepower to pull it, but there's a hack. If you connect it back to front on the tractor, you can pull it with a much smaller tractor. Okay, well this tractor feels like it's done its job, but that has not done its job. Yeah, it's a good hack, this, and I'm happy to show you because some of you watching may know even less about Farming Simulator than I do. It's hard to imagine that might be the case. This lime, which is calcium hydroxide, I wonder whether what they really use is powdered up calcium carbonate, which is limestone. They always call it lime, which is calcium hydroxide, slaked lime. Calcium oxide is quicklime. That would be far too dangerous to put on. I'm assuming it's calcium hydroxide. It's got a, when dissolved in water, has a, it's lime water when it's dissolved in water, but it doesn't really dissolve in water. Limestone doesn't dissolve at all, but would react with acid in the soil. It could be pulverised and then spread. I've always assumed it's slate lime. In the 50 years or so that I've been associated with my father's farm, I only remember lime being put on once. And I think that's when we grew curly kale. We grew a field of kale as animal fodder or as a rotation crop. I'm going to have to ask Dad about it. I mean, it was in the, I was going to say the 70s. It was possibly in the 80s. I think it was in the 70s. It's quite exciting. We had big machines, not as big as this, but big machines came in and took care of everything, and we were all pretty impressed. I was a bit worried about it because I had vague recollections of kale as being a sort of green vegetable, and I was slightly worried that I would be forced to eat curly kale myself, but it was entirely for the cattle. A few years later, many years later, like decades later, we grew strawberries industrially, and that was amazing because I was older, and so I could man the hut and interact with the general public and sell the strawberries, but also get to eat lots of strawberries. And at roughly the same time, our two other cash crops of that nature, apart from wheat and barley, were asparagus. We had I would say like a quarter of an acre plot of asparagus, but you grow a lot of asparagus in a quarter of an acre. And then we had a couple of acres of broad beans. Oh, I love broad beans. And they were a rotation crop for the strawberries. Because they're beans, so they return nitrogen to the soil and stuff, and it's all good. And people would pick your own broad beans. I mean, not as enthusiastically as they picked your own strawberries, picked their own strawberries, picked one's own strawberries. But yeah. So I was terrified by the kale, and I wasn't made to eat any. And then I was delighted by asparagus, strawberries, and broad beans as a cash crop. Now then, this wagon is mine, so I'm going to go and park it in a suitable parking space. Then I'm going to go and pick up a chisel plough. I say chisel. What we need to think, and this is very much for you to do the thinking, and for me not to think about it at all. We need to think about what we are going to plant in this field. Given that I've got a sprayer full of fertiliser, I'd quite like to do something that requires fertiliser. So we could plant something like wheat or barley or chickpeas, canola, maybe canola. Canola's quite good because you get quite a good price for canola. Soybeans, good price. There's always this thing about what crop produces the best price. I think I've read that barley, because you get both the grain and the straw, is the best price because you can sell the straw as well. But no one does that. It always feels to me like soybeans is the best thing. But oats are good, and there's slightly the other odd thing. We could grow oats. Should we do oats? Have I talked you into oats? And if we do oats, then I get to use my my fertiliser, which is kind of pleasing. So I'm going to buy this chisel plough. I keep calling it a chisel plough, but I think it's got another name, which will become obvious in a moment when I go along to ploughs and I go along to the end of the row. This is the one we're going to buy, and it's a subsoiler. Those are also subsoilers, and they are massive, and so that one requires 330 horsepower, that requires 370 horsepower, this one requires 320 horsepower, and we have, whatever it is, 246 horsepower to deal with. But there is a cheat. First of all, we're going to make it 9 metres wide. Secondly, we're going to keep it red, but we're just going to look around and see if there's a bit of Massey Ferguson red just to make it exactly right. And then we are going to buy it. Are we going to buy it? I think we're going to buy it. It's £20,000. And the secret is not to put it on the right way around, but on the wrong way around. So you're essentially dragging the blades through backwards. and then it does not care. So it has attachments at the front and the back, because you could, for instance, put a seeder, a drill, or a disc harrow or something like that behind it, so that you plough and then immediately harrow. But we're not doing any of that. What we're doing is we're chucking it on the back, and we're going to do big, naughty, old, fat sheets. And we're going to have a 9-metre plough. I mean, you just... I'm out here in rural France, and they've got big fields and they've got big equipment. I see big tractors going up and down the road. But the ploughs they have are like 5 or 6 furrows, tiny. And they just put in the hours. Actually, in fairness, there's not a lot of ploughing goes on out here. It's quite a low till culture. They disc harrow, and then they don't go in for the really heavy ploughing, and which is quite frowned upon environmentally. My farm in Wiltshire, the fields get ploughed, and the feeling behind that is that it is going to significantly increase the yield. The fields, we've got 2 20-something acre fields that we grow wheat and barley in, mostly barley, and they get a load of muck alternate years, and then it gets ploughed in, and then it gets drilled. But in the old days, I think we used to look at that, it's lovely. But there is all this stone there, and the stone damages the equipment. Even though I asked for there to be no stone, there does appear to be stone. I asked ever so politely. One of the things with this tool, when it's the wrong way around, is that it leaves gaps. So we will probably have to come back and patch things up a touch. This is a 9-metre device. I think I will get a 9-metre drill. If we were doing this for real, we would be very concerned about where our wheels were going, and we would generate tram lines, but that's not going to happen now. In Farming Simulator 2025, we will think about tram lines, and we will think about linking all the kit together so that it works in sync, in unison. But we are just here for fun, jolly old fun times. So we're not going to worry about that. We are just going to run away with things. Now, I'm 6 minutes short of having been here for an hour, which is remarkable, I think, that I've sat here talking to myself for an hour. You know. I watched briefly, very glamorous, German Twitcher playing Farming Simulator yesterday, last night. I left my machine on, and my iPad on beside the bed and fell asleep. And suddenly there was this, I was woken up with German voices. And there was this amazingly glamorous lady playing Farming Simulator. Let's go in close so we get some engine noise. Come on! And I can't think what the point of me saying it was. Apart from the fact that it was in German. That's interesting, isn't it? I completely lost my thread. I got excited about whizzing in close. Oh yeah, no, I know exactly what I was going to say. And her picture on the screen was huge. So I've got all of these, all of the help information, the speedo and the controls and the little map and what season it is. And I know that you can turn all of that off. and she turned most of that off. But then her picture was a huge, great big thing at the bottom of the page. I mean, it has to be said, it was nicer looking at her than it is looking at me. So I understood that. But I would have thought that you want to be a sort of minimum interference to the general layout of the game. No doubt as I get more confident with this, I will turn various things off. But I'm used to seeing it all. I'm used to, to just playing the game and having everything there. Sorry, I've slightly slumped, haven't I? That's because I've leant back. Perhaps I should sit up again. Perhaps I should sit up again so that you can see me. Do you see what I mean? So this, because it's the wrong way round, it doesn't adequately detect the lay of the land. This tractor is 100. It's only 150 horsepower. Oh, okay. Is it really only 150 horsepower? Okay. The reason I'm in a bit of a fuss about that is because I was thinking that we might sew some stuff, and I wanted to use this 9-meter cedar here. That is 6 meters. That is 6 meters. That is 8 meters. This is the fella. Although there's a modded version, I believe, back here somewhere. One of these ones. And that requires 240 horsepower. Even that requires 180. I don't really want to faff up and down with a little like weedy cedar. Seedy weeder. That's 3 meters. Oh, you spend a long time. You spend a long time if you've got one of those. Oh look, it is all a bit of a mess, isn't it? It's because I've got the thing back to front, so it doesn't pick up information quite as well as it does. So it will finish this furrow very nicely done. Up it goes. Then it will turn itself around. Quite rightly. This is not me doing it, this is it doing it automatically. And then it's going to seek the unploughed edge, which it's doing at the moment, and it struggles to find it slightly. I think because it's back to front, it would have started that much earlier, but because it's back to front, it's starting that much later. That is my COD explanation for things. Most of my explanations involve COD, which are deep water marine fish. Fish obviously being vertebrates, chordates. Is there such a thing as vertebrate? They're chordates, along with birds, amphibians, mammals, and reptiles. Fish are cool because they lay eggs in water, Them and the amphibians, they lay their eggs in water. Let's crack on there. Sorry, that was me. In case you wondered what was going on there, that was me. Let's have a sit in the cab, have a little look around. Very nice. Now, all the tractors I have driven in my life were built in either the late 60s or the early to mid 70s. I have never driven a tractor that was built, within the last 20 years. But I believe you can go on a course. Oh, the duck of justice has quacked. She says time is up, but we'll see. But you can go on courses and learn to drive modern tractors, and I think that would be a very sensible thing for me to do. I mean, I don't know that I can justify the word sensible there. 2-day course, driving a tractor. I don't need to be able to do everything. I need to just know a little bit more than Jeremy Clarkson knows. I need to be able to hook up to kit I need to understand how all of this stuff works inside. So look, this is a joystick on the right. So you can either drive it in the traditional fashion with pedals and like I would do, with levers and throttles and all the rest of it. Or you can drive it with joysticks. You can set the speed you want to go at. You can just click a button and off you go. And if it's got GPS, it knows where it is in the field. And that is, that's all there is to it. That's all lovely. I don't know what I'm going to do. Bit old fashioned, but I'm going to sort of gang mow it. I'm going to pop down here. Gang mow start, I don't think I mean gang mow, but I'm going to just do this bit and then I'm going to sort of spiral my way down into the middle to try and keep myself interested. I do think that, we get a lot of stick for the lack of texture. I gather in 2025 these furrows are going to have properly observable depth. I do worry that my Xbox is not going to cope with it. I feel like I need an Xbox 6 or whatever the next thing would be. Mine is an S, so it doesn't have a fancy big hard drive. It's just got the good internal architecture. But it's given that I only ever play Farming Simulator, it doesn't really matter. Now what I am wondering about doing, what I was going to do was I was going to stream some of my Xbox 3 games. Not my Xbox, my PS3 games. And I might, but my PS3 won't switch on. I might get an old I might get a second-hand PS3 because I've got loads of games. And that might be quite funny to do. I do have a PS4, but I feel like that's a little bit too recent for it to be entertaining. It'd be more entertaining. I've thrown out my PS2. Yeah, and streaming PS2 games would be quite amusing, would it? I don't know. Might as well sort of stream me playing on some kind of pub quiz machine or something. It's not a bad idea. So how much of this can I do in one go? Answer, not all of it. When this field is fully ploughed, I'm going to pull the plug. And then I'm going to write my notes to try and remember what it is I've done. And then next time, we'll sow this field and we will fertilise this field. And that will conceivably be it. We might have to leap through to the next month and see what happens. Presumably the next month, those other two fields will be ready for action. The two fields of maize will be ready to go. Hope so. Otherwise we've got to skip through, 2 months. This is saying pH value is okay, nitrogen is perfect. I don't think there's much we can do there. Expected yield is 98%, yield potential is 100%. Okay, so we could perhaps improve the pH value and get a result from it. I just have my doubts. Let's go and just test that theory. Let's go and chuck a bit of lime on it. Given that we do have a machine already absolutely packed with lime. I hate driving on recently worked fields, but ploughed is best. It's when they're elegantly disked. No, I don't have to do any more, so I'm not going to do any more. I realise that's not a solid principle. what we're just going to test very quickly is whether putting a bit of lime on changes the yield potential for the field across the way. Because if it does, we'll do it, because it is still growing, but I suspect it is too late to add lime and expect a change in policy. But we will test that theory now. It'll be hard to test it later on, but we'll test it now. Only need to put a little tiny amount of lime on to find out. So, at the moment, pH value is bad. Some places it's bad. Some places it's okay. Okay, well let's see whether doing something about that now sorry about that. I made me quite seasick. Makes a difference. Oh look, we're gonna just pile into this stuff. Okay. I'm going to leap out of this moving tractor. I'm going to come back and say, let's have a little look-see. Oh, look, and the yield potential has changed instantly. So it's definitely worth doing. Because it's already starting to affect the yield. If it affected the soil quality without affecting the yield, and it was not worth doing. And this has gone from 80% yield to 100 and something percent yield, which is nuts. It just means more seeds out than seeds you put in, but still sounds a bit mad, isn't it? 100% yield is the maximum that you believe your crop could possibly produce. Saying anything's more than 100% in that context is a bit silly. I'm going to get down to the end, then I'm going to do an end, then I'm going to just leave it to crack on. At that point, I will probably leave you, because even though this is the world's most comfortable chair, I am beginning to start to feel a little bit uncomfortable. I probably need to rearrange my stuff. When I've got a video capture card, which is, I'm 10 days, 2 weeks away from having such a thing, I think this will be better. Everything will be here. Yeah, it could be good. Oh, there we go. Now then, it hasn't got anything there. So this is the one where I could just leave it. Just lost consciousness there for a moment, which is not good. Let's hit click. Hit click. Push, push, push. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's far too close. But anyway, I don't care. I'm going to save and say good night. I hope you're all well out there. See you again, possibly tomorrow.